Hello and welcome to my latest vintage Schumacher RC video. Cougar 2 Team Edition Restoration. I'm going to try and assemble these pesky ball race steering levers with brass inserts and the washer. See, the thing is, only half of the steering is ball race, which is disappointing because the steering yoke, let's call it steering yoke, just has a washer in between as technically a friction plate. So these are available, so you can buy these from Schumacher website. I should say I did buy a set and they are very good, so they were available a few weeks ago. Normally says low stock, but anyway, the washer, I've just placed a washer in between the two plastic parts, the yoke and the lever, and they go together with a brass bush. This brass bush in the manual states that you should Loctite it, but in my hindsight I didn't Loctite it the first time because I'm very lucky, because unfortunately I put steering yoke. Steering yoke is the part with the ball joints in it. It's facing the wrong way. The ball joint should be facing towards the levers, not away from the levers. So technically it's the wrong way around. But anyway, my advice, if you buy some of these or if you're standard, set the torque level of your screws before you Loctite it, and then what you can do is judge how tight your steering will be, because the ball racers do not determine how tight the yoke is. The yoke is the long ball, and technically you're wasting your money if you over tighten these, because they negate the purpose of your ball race steering. Anyway, if you do it properly, like I'm trying to demonstrate, that's not the way to do that. You should really use a correct tool. Originally, these brass bushes were round, very pesky little round bushes, but these ones are hexagonal. I don't know where I've got these ones from. These are not original. These are not original. They should be round. But anyway, I digress and talk stuff. So what I'm doing here, I'm tightening, but not over tightening. They're not loose because when it gets to a point where your plastic wears, and it will do, they will loosen off a bit more. So I would advise you, if you fit the boy steering, to try and set up the yoke and levers nicely. Luckily on this time I put it the wrong way around with no Loctite, so I can disassemble it and put it back together the right way round. So with that said, when you do your final torque setting of your yoke, just drop a tiny bit of Loctite in the top, not much, don't need much, doesn't need much. It's never going to come loose if you put a tiny bit in. Do not over Loctite it. But anyway, I keep repeating that because it's quite important. But anyway, the Cougar 2, the Cougar 2 Team Edition comes with us as standard, and they did do the Works Edition. This comes as standard. Yeah, don't be fooled into thinking all Cougar 2s have ball steering. They don't. The cheaper versions, or the entry-level versions, I think it was the Sport, that had no upgrades on it whatsoever. No upgrades whatsoever. No slipper clutch. No wishbones. Well, wishbones. Of course, it had wishbones. I was going to say, like the standard Cougar 2 wishbones on the front and the bulkheads. Everything aesthetically looked like a Cougar 2, but it didn't have the upgrades, as in the ball race steering, the slipper clutch, and the metal gearbox accessories or upgrades. But anyway, sorry, I'm actually talking proper rubbish. But anyway, very simple to fit. This steering, no Loctite required with the levers. All it is a nylon inserted lock nut. Very simple, very simple. This is the, what would you call this bit? Let's just call it a plastic part that secures the steering. But anyway, you get 2 bearings on each side. Each lever has 2 bearings and a sleeve which they rest on. The actual pivot bar, or it just sits on this stainless steel bolt, or yeah, I'm going to call it a bolt. Just sits on there. It's when you've got this ball race steering. Now, if you're a pro racer, you might notice a difference. If you're a amateur, one day a week racer, and you think, oh, I'm going to get some ball race steering, I don't think you'll notice a difference, because you can set up your standard steering quite nicely, and I don't think if you haven't got it, then I won't worry about it. But if it's in stock on the website, excuse me, it's in stock on the website, then why not? It's not that expensive. It's not actually that expensive. 15 quid with postage and VAT. I don't think it's that an expensive upgrade for your excuse me, Cougar. But anyway, I mean, people are liking the Cougars nowadays. I'm glad they released it again, because why miss out? Why miss out on a very nice, very simple race car? I've actually set mine up with brushed motor. I'm not into the brushless as yet. I like the retro feel of brushed. Plus, my driving's not that good, and I wouldn't actually benefit from going even faster. Put it that way. I like to drive and race. It's not about coming first. It's about having a good time, and I think that if you have a good time, then that's what you're doing it for. That's what I do it for. But if you can get really, really good, then go for it. More you race, better you get. But anyway, sorry, back to this ball race steering. It's, to be fair, there's not much to it. You got your steering yoke or your bar at the front and your 2 levers and your 4 bearings and your washers. Very simple. They do actually work quite nicely, but all I'm saying is don't worry if you can't get it. You can't tell much difference. It just looks good, feels good. Plus, nowadays, if you've got a nice high speed, high torque servo, then you don't need ball race steering because there's all the precision's in your servo. But then again, if you don't hook up your servo properly to your steering, then you're going to have a certain amount of you're going to lose a certain amount of precision. So you really it's a full circle, isn't it? You've got to make sure your servo's connected nicely. Then you've got to make sure your steering's not over tightened, and then you've got your steering rods. They're not incorrectly set up, and then you've got to make sure your wheels, they are nice and true. So it's not down to just this ball race steering. So anyway, we say it's not as simple, but sometimes it comes down to little things like the odd screw, the odd bit of Loctite, over tightening and stuff like that. But realistically, all we're really doing is fitting the standard part. The standard part on this Cougar 2 Team Edition is the bolt race steering. There's not a lot more you can really say, but I'm going to keep rolling the video, mainly because technically it's on. We could cut it there, but I just want to show you putting the front on at the same time. So realistically, it's not just a video on the bolt race steering. I do actually fit the front bulkhead. They do recommend Loctite, the 2 screws that hold the front bulkhead on. I suppose it is advisable, but I'd go the same. I just wouldn't put too much in these 2 nuts, because all you're going to do is make it difficult for yourself if you need to take it apart. Plus, you can replace these flat as standard nuts with lock nuts. But because we're keeping this model original, we are going to make sure that we use the right nuts and the right screw. I'm not sure if it was originally Loctited. I've got a habit of not Loctiting stuff. I think sometimes it's just a fear of once it's on with Loctite, it's on. But you can get, don't forget, you can get blue and the red thread lock. I normally go with the blue because the red technically destroys stuff if you use that, because you can never ever get it off. But when you use the blue, I find that if you use the blue on a mixture of brass and steel, it seems to go off really quick, which doesn't help when you're trying to assemble something. I think that's why I don't use it that much. But anyway, make sure you use thread lock or Loctite when you need to. Don't listen to me, I'm just rambling. But anyway, technically, once you've got these 2 screws in, you're only left with 2 more that hold the front on. There's only 4 screws that hold the front on. So it's a very nice design from Mr. Cecil. Very nice design. In this video, I'm not going to fit the 2 screws on the front, because on the Cougar 2, you have a little bit of nose cone body shell that goes over the front, and the 2 screws on my body version go through the body shell bits, so I can't fit the body shell nose cone unless I screw the front on, and on this video I don't do that. I leave that quite to the end because I'm not at a stage to fiddle around with the body. But anyway, I'm talking rubbish again. But I do have to disassemble this in the future because I've put the steering yoke on the wrong way around. When it moves left and right, it does actually catch the bulkhead, which isn't good. Faces backwards for a reason, and I didn't notice. My advice is read your manual, people. Read your manual, study it. I've got a bad habit of not looking at the manual, but I think that's just because I've done Cougars for many years. I've got used to them. But they're always a good reference. Manuals, always a good reference. So I think that's getting about it. We are more or less there with the steering and front end. So tune into the next one and we'll see what's next. Laters.